can we build AI without losing control over it? In that TED talk, you really discussed the idea whether AI, when it gets to a certain point of sentience and intelligence, will wreak havoc on humanity. 6 years later, where do you stand on it today? Do you think, are you optimistic about our chances of survival?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm optimistic. I am worried about two species of problem here that are related. I mean, there's sort of the near-term problem of just what humans do with increasingly powerful AI, and how it amplifies the problem of misinformation and disinformation, and just makes it harder and harder to make sense of reality together. And then there's just the longer term concern about what's called alignment with artificial general intelligence, where we build AI that is truly general and by definition superhuman in its competence and power. And then the question is, have we built it in such a way that is aligned in a durable way with our interests? And I mean, there's some people who just don't see this problem. I mean, they're kind of blind to it. When I'm in the presence of someone who doesn't share this intuition, they don't resonate to it, I just don't understand what they're doing or not doing with their minds in that moment. Let's say I'm wrong about that. Well, then it's just the other person's right, and so we just have fundamentally different intuitions about this particular point. And the point is this: if you're imagining building true artificial general intelligence that is superhuman, and that is what everyone, whatever their intuitions, purports to be imagining here. I mean, there are people on both sides of the alignment debate. There are people who think alignment's a real problem, and people who think it's a total fiction. But everyone, virtually everyone who's party to this conversation agrees that we will ultimately build artificial general intelligence that will be superhuman in its capacities. And there's very little you have to assume to be confident that we're going to do that. And there's really just two assumptions. One is that intelligence is substrate independent, right? It doesn't have to be made of meat. It can be made in silico, right? And we've already proven that with narrow AI. I mean, we obviously have intelligent machines, and your calculator in your phone is better than you are at arithmetic, and that's some very narrow band of intelligence. So as we keep building intelligent machines on the assumption that there's nothing magical about having a computer made of meat, the only other thing you have to assume is that we will keep doing this. We will keep making progress. And eventually we will be in the presence of something more intelligent than we are. And that's not assuming Moore's law. It's not assuming exponential progress. We just have to keep going, right? And when you look at the reasons why we wouldn't keep going, those are all just terrifying, right? Because intelligence is so valuable, and we're so incentivized to have more of it, and every increment of it is valuable. It's not like it only gets valuable when you get, when you double it or 10x it. No. If you just get 3% more, right, that pays for itself. So we're going to keep doing this. Our failure to do it suggests that something terrible has happened in the meantime, right? We've had a world war. We've had a global pandemic far worse than COVID. We got hit by an asteroid. Something happened that prevented us as a species from continuing to make progress in building intelligent machines, right? So absent that, we're going to keep going. We will eventually be in the presence of something smarter than we are. And this is where intuitions divide. My intuition, and it's shared by many people, I'm sure, and I know at least one who you've spoken to, my intuition is that there is something inherently dangerous for the dumber party in that relationship. There's something inherently dangerous for the dumber species to be in the presence of the smarter species. And we have seen this, based on our entanglement with all other species, dumber than we are, right? Or certainly less competent than we are. And by reasoning by analogy, it would be true of something smarter than we are. People imagine that because we have built these machines, that is no longer true, right? But, and here's where my intuition goes from there. That imagination is born of not taking intelligence seriously, right? Because what intelligence is a mismatch in intelligence in particular is a fundamental lack of insight into what the smarter party is doing and why it's doing it and what it will do next on the part of the dumber party, right? So, I mean, you just can imagine that, by analogy, just imagine that dogs had invented us as their super intelligent AIs, right? For the purpose of making their lives better, just securing resources for them, securing comfort for them, getting them medical attention. It's been working out pretty well for the dogs for about 10,000 years, right? I mean, there's some exceptions. We mistreat certain dogs, but generally speaking, for most dogs, most of the time, humans have been a great invention, right? Now, it's true that the mismatch in our intelligence dictates a fundamental blindness with respect to what we've become in the meantime, right? So we have all these instrumental goals and things we care about that they cannot possibly conceive, right? They know that when we go get the leash and say it's time for a walk, they understand that particular part of the language game. But everything else we do when we're talking to each other, and when we're on our computers or on our phones, they don't have the dimmest idea of what we're up to. And if something happened, the truth is we love our dogs. We make just irrational sacrifices for our dogs. We prioritize their health over all kinds of things that is just amazing to consider. And yet, if we learned, if there was a new, global pandemic kicking off and some xenovirus was jumping from dogs to humans, and it was just kind of super Ebola, right? It was 90% lethal, and this was just a forced choice between them. What do you value more, the lives of your dogs or the lives of your kids, right? If that's a situation we were in, it's totally conceivable. I mean, it's not by no means impossible. We would just kill all the dogs, right? And they would never know why, right? We would just, and it's because we have this layer of mind and culture and just the noosphere, right? There's just this realm of mind that requires a requisite level of intelligence to even be party to even know exists.
If I had to put you in a yes or no situation and ask your intuition the question now, that if your objective was to, which I'm sure it is to encourage the betterment of humanity and to increase our odds of happiness and well-being 100 years from now, and there was a button placed in front of you, and it would either end the development of artificial intelligence as we've seen it over the last decade, so we'd never proceed with developing intelligent machines, or not. So you could press a button and stop it right now. What would you do?
And stop it permanently, such that we never then do that thing? We just never figure out how to build intelligent machines?
Pause it indefinitely.
Well, I would definitely pause it to a point where we could get our heads around the alignment problem. Yes.
Permanently. If the button was a permanent pause that you couldn't undo.
Well, the question is, how deep does that go? So, like, we have everything we have now, but it just never gets better than.
Yeah, we never make progress from here.
Right.
And your objective is to make humanity happy and prosperous.
I mean, it's hard because when you begin imagining all of the good stuff that we could get with aligned superhuman AI, well, then it's just cornucopia upon cornucopia. It's just everything is potentially within reach. Yeah, I mean, I take the existential risk scenario seriously enough that I would pause it I would say. I mean, I think we will eventually get to it. If curing cancer is a biomedical engineering problem that admits of a solution, and I think there's every reason to believe it ultimately would be, we will eventually get there based on our own, muddling along with our, current level of tech, currently information tech. I'm, reasonably confident of that. Because I mean, our intelligence shows every sign of being general. It's just it's not as fast as we would want it to be. It's not what the thing that AI is going to give us is going to give us speed that is. I mean, there's speed, and then there's the access. There's memory, right? It's like we can't integrate. We don't have the ability. No person or team of people can integrate all of the data we already have, right? So that the real promise here is that these systems will be able to find patterns that we wouldn't even know how to look for, and then do something on the basis of those patterns. I think an intelligent search within the data space, by apes like ourselves, will eventually do most of the great things we want done. And there isn't. I mean, the problems we need to solve, so as to safeguard the career of our species, and to make civilization durable and sane, and to remove this sword of Damocles that is over our heads at every moment, that at any moment we could just decide to have a nuclear war that ruins everything, or create an engineered pandemic that ruins everything. We don't need superhuman intelligence to solve all those problems, and we need an appropriate emotional response to the untenability of the status quo, and we need a political dialogue that eventually transcends our tribalism.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.